Hey guys, Keegan Russell here with the KC Sports Authority podcast. Well, the transfer portal giveth and the transfer portal taketh, and this time it taketh away from KU as the freshman phenom that could have been the four-star recruit Chris Johnson has now pulled his name, has pulled his letter of intent with Kansas, and is now back out there on the market again. Just want to give a couple quick thoughts on this. So, very short episode today. First off, it's not surprising to me. Chris Johnson was farther down the depth chart than he probably wanted to be coming into the year. You've got DeJuan Harris, Arterio Morris, Marco Jackson, Nick Timberlake all fighting for minutes at the 1 and the 2 spot. In reality, he probably wasn't going to get a whole lot of playing time this next year. If you think about it, DeJuan Harris is going to be here at least one more year, could still play 2. Marco could be here at least 1 year, maybe 2. Arterio Morris clearly is part of the big picture plan, so he's here at least another year. So to me, this is pretty simple. It's all about playing time or lack of playing time this first year for Chris. And for someone like himself, who still a very highly recruited individual, I think before the high school season ended, he was a top 45 prospect. Now with the season ending, he finished top 75. Didn't have a great senior year. But a 6'4" combo guard is now back on the market. He would have been great here at Kansas, probably year 2, year 3. But I completely understand if you don't want to wait those 2-3 years to get playing time, because chances are he was probably the 9th, 10th man in the rotation this year. So he decides to ask to be released from his letter of intent with Kansas and will now pick another school. Again, makes a lot of sense. I think really the nail in the coffin for this, I think it was decided weeks ago that this was probably going to happen and it was likely to happen. To me, that domino was Arterio Morris. Once Morris transferred in, it was evident from the get-go that Bill Self loved the skill set of Morris, his upside. And because Arterio's coming in, he's fighting primarily for that starting 2 guard spot / the backup to DeJuan, and could be here when DeJuan leaves. So right away, you've got a lot of competition right there for Chris. So having Arterio in front of him definitely hurts. Then, of course, Marco Jackson being the higher ranked recruit for the season, playing the same role, same spot, is going to get the first look. So for a guy like Chris, now he's going to go find another program that maybe he can have more of an immediate impact in, instead of, playing on a good program like Kansas, but maybe not getting playing time early on. So certainly don't, I'm not disappointed. Unfortunately, this is one part of the transfer portal that KU is starting to see. There's not enough minutes for everybody. And as much as you get the good players in the portal, sometimes you lose lose good players in the portal. And this is one of those cases where a guy like Chris Johnson, who has the upside, just wants to go find a place where he can fit in more immediately and have a greater impact. So where does that kind of leave things now? Before that announcement, KU was sitting at 10 scholarship. I'm sorry, sitting at 11 scholarship players, looking to potentially add one more spot for that 12th spot and then be one scholarship short for this year. Now this leaves them with 10 scholarship players, so now they are technically 3 short of the 13 mark that you typically see. Because of the imposed sanctions, KU has decided to lose those 3 scholarships over the next 3 years. So there's one of two things that could happen here now. Option 1, stick at the 10 scholarship players and use the rest of your bench to kind of fill in the minutes, which could be possible. I think KU still has a pretty deep 10-man rotation as it sits currently. And then you have all 3 of those scholarships. You get them out of the way this year, and then now you can have full rosters the next 2 years. I doubt that'll be the case, though. I'm going to guess Bill Self's going to want some more bodies on this roster, and that final scholarship spot will be 11 total. So I think there's still one person they're looking to add. Don't know specifically who. I know we've talked about this on the podcast before. Grant Nelson would be great as the 4-man, backup big man, but solid on the 4. He'd be perfect for that final roster spot and final scholarship. Don't really know what's happening there. KU's been linked to him, but there really hasn't been a lot of conversation as to how likely that is. But that could be the case. We saw Zion Pullen was one of those guards that was also a potential transfer. His list has been dwindled down, and KU's not on it. It doesn't mean that we're not in the running. A lot of times people put out that list just to gain more momentum and traction with other schools, but he could be a potential. In reality, though, it feels like this last spot is going to go to that another combo guard, that fourth ball handler, fourth point guard potential candidate, or to another bigger size wing. Maybe another backup big who's more of a developmental piece that can come in and be a good camp body and push around and just be there for practice. Um, Personally, I think I'd rather it be a combo guard or a bigger wing, someone that 6'5", 6'6" range that could be developmental, maybe doesn't need to do a lot this first year, but can get into the system, start learning it, can sit behind a quality roster, fill out a couple minutes here and there when we're up big late in the games, and just kind of and basically enjoy the ride being at Kansas. Um, but there's still talks of maybe we still need another backup big man, another stretch 4 or 5 guy. If KJ's going to be playing the 4 and Hunter's the starting 5 and Parker's the backup 5 man, there's still little room there to fulfill, especially if KJ gets in foul trouble or Hunter gets in foul trouble. You still don't have a lot of depth. So I wouldn't mind it being another 4 man or a 5 man. I don't know how much trust they have in a guy like Marcus Adams to come in year one as a younger freshman and take the ropes as that backup 4 spot, especially if KJ is getting the primary minutes at the 4 and Kevin's getting the primary minutes at the 3. So look to that. Could be someone there. There's still high school recruits out there that haven't signed. There's still plenty of guys in the portal. Maybe not as many big time names outside of like an Arthur Kaluma. KU could go that route still. I don't think that's likely because I think he's looking for a big role. But really, it's just finding that one piece that kind of fits the puzzle of backup rotation minutes, someone that can come in and solidify a backup spot, eat well in practice, and put up a fight in practice, push the guys around them. Because again, this roster is all about Dewan, KJ, Kevin, and Hunter Dickinson. Um, as far as the rotation stands, I think this doesn't really impact anything. Chris Johnson deciding to leave, at least for this year. Again, he was probably fighting for fringe minutes at best. It does kind of change things for the future. He's probably one that was in that mix for minutes next year. But again, with Arterio being here, it's likely that Arterio, if he's not starting a lot this year, that he's probably the starting 2 guard next year. So you're still having to come off the bench. And if you're a stud freshman with athletic upside, 6'4" wing, you want to play as soon as possible, and you don't really want to wait around for. So again, not too worried about the rotation. All that really means is that Bill Self has to get back into the portal one more time to fill in a piece here, and then kind of start the ball rolling again next year's recruiting class and going out and finding another guard because they still need probably another guard to come in next year, especially if El Marco somehow ends up as a one and done. But even if he does come back, you only have 3 primary ball handlers on the roster, and Bill Self likes to have 4 when possible. Would be very curious though to hear from you guys, the fans, hear your thoughts. I know transfer portal has been very frustrating, and not everyone's happy with it. And this, of course, is one of the negative side effects to the transfer portal, losing scholarship players and incoming freshmen. We've talked about this on a previous episode that it probably hurts freshmen the most more than anything because now these guys aren't sure when they sign the letter of intent how likely they are to get playing time. And that could prevent future recruits from wanting to sign up with us just because they're concerned about how much playing time they get. But in reality, I'm not worried. Bill Self knows what he's doing, putting this roster together. I think since that press conference he had in coming back, the mindset's been win now mode. And if a transfer sophomore, junior, senior helps you win now, I think he's more concerned with that. I'm not worried about how this is going to affect recruiting. He's always going to find a way to get that done, and people are still going to want to come and play here. And with the way college basketball is going now, it's probably going to be a lot of transfer guys the next couple of years anyway. So it's, do you take the upside of a freshman and the potential, or do you go with the more sure commodity in the NCAA that's got several years of experience? So that's kind of where it stands now. I don't want to take too much long. Just want to kind of get some quick thoughts out there before this became super old news. Obviously, we'll still dive in more once the roster is officially set and kind of talk more about the actual lineup projections, go through the rotation minutes, and do all that like we did last year. But yeah, until then, if you guys have any questions or want to hit us up with your thoughts, again, you can find the podcast over on Spotify. You can listen to us there. You can rate the podcast, give us a 5-star review if you think we are fantastic. Would love to see that. If you're watching over on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Leave your comments below on how you're feeling about this. If you have any questions or concerns, if there's a couple names out there that you would like to see us go after with that final spot, you can also find us over on Twitter, Facebook, or on Instagram. Just search at KCSA Pod. Again, you can follow and like us on there and stay up to date with all of our future content. So until then, guys, as always, rock chalk.